Corey, if I can jump in and just make a couple of comments about, let's call it business risk. And what we're not very good at is considering the implications of the catastrophic situation such as we've just encountered. We tend to operate in a fairly short time frame, and trying to get to the point of where, and this is in the same bucket as the 2001 terrorism impacts, etc. The global environment changes very suddenly and impacts a lot of people in a broad range. Now, what we're not good at is analysing our own business for vulnerabilities.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Yeah, and I've had a fairly good run of exposure to some fairly high-profile event delivery companies, you know, whether it be Formula One Grand Prix through to tennis, Australian Opens through to everything else. And there's almost like a bit of a vain view that this will continue. And I changed some business processes about 2 years ago when I came across Alphonse, who some of you know, when we started to develop this online portal to take over some of the tasks that I do, not because of a catastrophic vulnerability, but because I'm getting to that stage of life where I suppose my business operates on me being present, you know, like fees for service type hourly rates, that sort of thing. It's going to come a time when I want to back that away a little bit, where, and this other system that I'm trying to develop is let's call it the passive income stream that I'm looking for going forward. So it's just by happenstance, I suppose, that was underway, or that's been underway for a couple of years now. It's fairly well developed. And that's probably the thing, if I can get that with a bit more traction going out of this darkness, I think that's where I'll benefit in the long run. But it was just by more or less coincidence. So what I suggest to people is have a look at your business and your revenue streams and your supply lines, because whether it be paint for you, Glenn, or and you know, ridiculous as it might seem, but there might be something just suddenly discovered about paint that suddenly takes it off the market in a very short space of time, or you know, food lines, that sort of stuff for other people, or coffee wean. But think about your business lines and think about, well, what else can I do to actually either shore up that stability, because now we've been caught out being highly reliant on international manufacturing. I think that's going to be a big one coming out of this.
That's our biggest one, I think, Steve.
Yeah.
We're too reliant on China.
Yep.
And this will give us the opportunity now to look at resourcing.
Yeah, because I've done a lot of work on business continuity planning before. I was planning in place for the equine influenza when it struck the racing industry back in 2007, and we muddled through that one quite okay. But those things have a long-term impact on industries in isolation. This one is a big one. So I think now's the time, if you've got time to analyse and just jot down a few things about your business and some of those vulnerabilities, whether it be streams of income, whether it be supply lines, etc.
Yeah, supply lines.
Think about some ways of just developing up, because we respond well after a crisis hits, but we don't think about too much of this in advance.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's a good point, Stephen. If I can just jump in, I had a look when this all started. After I guess we all went through the shock, and probably the first 2 weeks, I think we're all in shock, thinking about the impact it was going to have on our businesses and on our families. And one of the things afterwards that I did look at was what businesses in the past, which businesses had come out of either recessions, depressions, or just severe downturns in markets. And if you go back all those years, the massive companies like IBM, Disney, and those type of companies came out of severe downturns in markets, depressions, world wars, whatever the case. Now, for us, I think the principle is still the same, even though we're not Disney or IBM or any of these companies. The principle's the same, and that is that. And if you go back even to the GFC, that's probably the most recent example we can look at. So, Uber, Tesla, they came out of the GFC, and it was a period where a lot of corporate people lost their jobs and were just forced to be innovative and do something else. And so I think for the ones that still, for those of us that still are have our businesses and are fortunate to be able to, you used the word before, pivot, Stephen. It's just it has become a buzzword. But the other one that I'm seeing is a fair bit is this reset reset. And I think this is opportunity for all of us as business people, as you said, just to look at every aspect of the business. And for me, what I decided to do was to start to build assets that we're going to help build a business to a point where it did need less of me.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of assets that you can work on. So it could be simple things like, particularly these days with online, right? There's a marketing in the marketing area. There's a belief that people need to absorb about 7 hours of content off you on 11 different ways. Okay, so it could be email, it could be Twitter, it could be all those different things, and on 4 different platforms. So Facebook, Twitter is another one, and so building digital assets to be able to have that content on there. So it could be these days, we're all on a Zoom, we're all fairly comfortable in front of a camera. So it could be things like just heaps of video content. Stephen, you're talking, and I'm just looking at saying that, well, you could be doing heaps of video content where you could be explaining, for example, the top 5 mistakes business people make when it comes to assessing their risk. And that can become content that you could market and become a really good lead-in for people to then, connect with you.
Yeah, can't agree
so I
with
think
you
this is
more,
a really
Ziggy.
good time. Yeah, I think this is a really good time for us to be, Tony, as you said, just to to be able to just to relook at every aspect of the business now that we've got that downtime, because we've been forced into this downtime, and we'll never be, unlikely to ever be forced into it again. So now's the time to be spending time with family, which has been, I've really just enjoyed. But also, everyone is in downtime mode, or most people. So now's the opportunity to look at all the, Tori organising, these Zoom webinar type things and discussions are a part of it for me. So well done.
I think if people sit down, as you said, Ziggy, and look at investment in assets that may take you on a slight slant away from your current business, but add value to where you're going, that's a good strategy to have. But in saying that, I told the team last week that just before we came to live in Melbourne, I had to give a paper at Parliament House in Canberra, and it was relative to the build-up of too much reliance on China. And when you put all of the cost price and then all of the on costs associated with sourcing out of China, we weren't really that far behind competitively. Now with the fact that a lot of the automotive industry invested in China and now they're all gone, one of the main things I said, it wasn't going to be long before the Chinese said, look, we've hardly got enough capacity to look after ourselves in the United States. So either we put your prices up or you resource. And I don't reckon we're going to be too far away from that scenario. But anyway,
we've been pushed into a corner already.
I think it's a good reset for the world, isn't it? As you say, so there's not just reliance on one country.
Yeah, that's it.
I think you've got to be fairly self-sufficient as much as possible, because I
think Paul Keating was the one that said it's the recession that Australia had to have. I think we're in that same sort of position again. Like you said, Ziggy, hitting that reset button, it'll sort of puts things back into normality, puts things back into perspective. A lot of businesses will go under because of the practices that they had. I think that now we need to be a little bit more shrewd in the way we run our businesses. We don't over leverage ourselves. We have a proper plan in place. It's been all offensive because things have been so good for the last 10 years. It's been all offensive. But now we're going to really buckle down, watch our spending, and just look at it. Basically, it feels like we're resetting back 10 years and we're sort of starting again.
Yeah,
that's how it feels to me. So
Yep.
I think it's a good thing. I think the people who have smart ideas and see the opportunity, definitely in terms of technology. I think, when you talk about assets, I think our number one asset is the internet. If we can't see that, I think we've got some screws loose, because the reach that we can have on the internet
Yep.
is phenomenal. I mean, in terms of
You're
marketing
right.
and advertising, and it doesn't mean you have to be selling all the time. Like Ziggy said, just tell your story. Just get out there,
Yep.
Glenn, show people how to paint a certain wall a certain way, and people will love that. People will love you for it. So eventually that will turn into sales, because they like you. I can't push it enough. Keep going online, keep pushing it, guys. Get your social media up. I'll help you if you want me to. I'm
Well,
excited about it,
yeah.
actually, because I know that I can see it. I can see the end from the beginning, and I know that what we do now matters. What we do now in the next 3
Yep.
to 6 months, it's going to make a massive impact on what happens in the next,
This
5
is
years.
where
Yeah.
is where the strategic intent for businesses. It
Mm.
sounds a big buzzword, but
Yeah.
when you sit down and work it out, it's not.
Mm.
And as Steve said earlier, risk mitigation about where you're going. How many businesses took that into account in their business plan
Mm.
because it was all foreign to them?
Well-
Now it's not.
Yeah. I know when I started my business, so I went into the signage business, but I actually sat down one day and I watched a documentary about a sign business that went through the recession in America. And the guy was saying, my grandfather was loving life because they were so busy putting up propaganda and government signage. And I said, oh, wow, if that ever happens, I think I might be okay. I might be able to get through. So my business has not really slowed down that much. Had to make a few changes, but it was something that I thought about when I started the business. And also I didn't over leverage myself. So I thought about saving a little bit as well.
Yeah.
So that when I got to this point, it was a shock, but I can still breathe a little bit because I had something in the bank, like I know William does. You need to invest it. Don't hide it under the bed. But just being a bit more clever. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
Too good, Tori. That's
Anyone
great,
else want to talk into that, what they've done differently? Otherwise, might open the floor to Ziggy with some practical things.
Yeah, look, just quickly.
Yep, go to you, Glenn.
We were flat out. We've been flat out since February, getting at least 2 months of work ahead of us. So we got through a lot of work, and then came that Friday the 13th, and we were just finishing off jobs, and then a lot of people have just put stuff off, basically. So that we haven't lost clients. We're just putting them off to better times. We're going to have a bit more of an idea of what's going on. So we're still busy. I worked all Easter, worked today, and I've got 2 or 3 weeks ahead of me. But it's making me think now, because I've never had to advertise. I've always had work just come in, been very spoiled over the years, lots of word of mouth, that sort of thing. But, I haven't even got a Facebook page for my business. So that's where, Tori, you're going to have to help me out, mate.
Anytime, man.
You can help.
I will.
Yeah, so that's where I'm at, and there'll be times ahead where I'll be at home, and so we'll have to look into websites and improving advertising, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, we should do everything we can to navigate the storm, I think.
Yep.
Do whatever we can, whatever's in our power.
Just briefly before you hand over to Z, I've had the same issue. I've engaged a marketing firm now. I'm actually investing in going a bit on the offensive rather than the defensive. For that exact purpose, because my business has always been word of mouth, my reputation and everything. But now the people I've typically, that's a fairly finite group. So I'm working on ways now of actually getting out to that much broader market with that potential, because if I rely on what's happened in the past, I'm going to go nowhere. So
the thing is with like social media and stuff like that, Steve, a lot of people think, oh no, I'm business to business, that's not going to help me. But the thing is, there's people in businesses, like I said, and you might not reach the owner of the business, but you might reach maybe the cousin of someone that you're going to do business with. And they're going to go say, hey, I know this guy through Facebook, and, you know, that connection's made. So that's how it works. It's all about engagement and connecting and community. And, you know, it's free. It's free to have a Facebook page.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Might have you mentioned before, it's a bit of a vain approach though, historically. You know, we just expect things to keep coming down the pipe.
Yeah.
Now we've got to get on the front foot.
Yeah.
That's it. Ziggy, would you be happy to speak into a couple of things? I did outlay some things on the agenda, but I can give you the floor, but I did have a couple of things. I've watched a few of your videos on YouTube and on your website. Yeah. I thought some of that stuff's very helpful, practical stuff, because you have professionals working with you, accountants and so forth. You don't need to be overly specific, but maybe if you want to just talk into that.
Well, I think, look, what I've been getting out to clients is things that have just been practical from a personal cash flow perspective. Now, naturally, you've got the business stuff as well. And in terms of the stimulus packages that the government have come out with, I mean, they're fairly easy to know what they are. Interpreting them is a little bit harder, but a lot of that information is on the Treasury website. It's really good. They've got some really great fact sheets. So, so if I could tonight, rather than go through those, probably just go through some practical things. And and this is all things that we've been getting out to clients just to help with some personal cash flow. Because if the business, you know, it is, and this applies to everyone. If your business income has stopped, then your personal cash flow is being affected. And for all our team or other employees out there, if their income is reduced or stopped, this affects them as well. So I might just sort of run through the ones that we covered. So some sensible ones, such as, you know, if you're making extra contributions into superannuation, you just suspend them at this time. There's no point, you know, I think it's just, you know, hold your firepower, keep your cash flow going. So if you're self-employed and been making stupid contributions, I would just hold on to them for the time being. I would also, you could draw down on any mortgage facilities if you've got the buffer in there and the redraw facility to be able to draw down, just to get rid of any credit card debt, anything that could, become a problem, and just to take advantage of record low interest rates. I mean, interest rates just keep on dropping. So if you've got the facility to be able to redraw down, even if you have to redraw down some of it just to get you through this period, I think it's worthwhile.
Jump on it.
And it's the cheapest credit you'll ever get. You've got the government's obviously got their stimulus packages in terms of businesses that can borrow up to 250,000. However, you still got to be commercial about it. Just because they're providing it on good terms doesn't mean, you know, you're absolved of any obligation to pay it back. It's the interest is suspended for 6 months, but there still is a 3-year term in which to pay it back. So when this is sort of the shock and the awe has passed and we're sort of back into mode again, I think everything, the government included, the tax office, will start to move from empathy and sympathy to, all right, it's time now. It's time to start paying this back. But I think in the situations where, again, it's going to be a cheap form of credit that they're providing, I would take advantage of that if you can as well.
Good word.
Obviously fixing mortgage rates, as we said, they're low. If just to provide some certainty, then if you fix them for a term, that's an opportunity. Anyone that's paying over and above their normal loans, drop that back to minimum as well. I mean, all banks are offering now. Most are somewhere between 3 to 6 months. Each bank is different. Some are 3 months, others are 6 months. 6 months seems to be sort of the common suspension of payments. Just bear in mind, though, that the interest is not suspended. The interest just accumulates.
Yes.
Okay. So at the very least, if you can, what I would be doing would be funding the interest at least just in your continue to make those payments if you can. Otherwise, there's interest being charged on interest and it starts to accumulate. Now, if you can't, well, it's better to have it suspended than, to have the issue of losing your house or having something like that. So go with it. But if you do have the opportunity to be able to at least pay the interest, I'd cover that. And if you've got investment properties, if you're in a negative gearing situation, then typically with investment properties, there's a larger refund that you get at the end of the year when you lodge your tax return, or you can apply for that refund to come during the year, okay, via your PAYG. So you can have your PAYG, so this is the tax, you can have that tax varied so that rather than getting a lump sum at the end of the year, you can get that throughout the year. So I'd be doing it now. I've got some clients who just prefer the lump sum at the end of the year, and others who they need help with cash flow during the year to help with the property. Okay, so for those that are on a end of year sort of lump sum thing, I'd be varying the PAYG now to help with cash flow. If you're not working, income protection, insurance. So if what you can do with insurance premiums is that you could suspend the insurance cover for 6 to 12 months, which just means that you won't have to pay the premium on the income protection, but it also means that you're not covered. So just be careful. However, if it's better to suspend the payments and not be covered than actually not be able to make payments and have the policy cancelled. Right? The reason is in 12 months' time, you can pick it up again without having to make a fresh new application and going through all those health questions. Again. So there's just an opportunity there. And I think we're all working from home these days, so there's opportunity for home office deductions. You would have seen the tax office, the government, the tax office last week came out with a very easy calculation of 80 cents per hour.
Per hour, yeah.
Yep. So what you can do is you can claim up to 80 cents per hour for the hours that you're actually working from home. And it, in terms of proof, you just need to have a record of the hours that you're actually working at home. You actually don't need, for this particular option, you actually don't need to have an allocated home office. This is available to anyone, whereas the other option, which is the deductions, the home office deductions that have been around forever and a day, you have to have an allocated, study area or home office, and you're able to get 52 cents per hour, or you're able to claim a percentage of the running costs of the home based on the size of the office.
Yeah.
Okay? So they've just made this nice and easy, 80 cents an hour. You just need to keep a record of it, and it just makes it so much easier. We're all working from home, and if you've had to buy printers or set things up at home, just keep the records and the receipts of those because they're all tax deductible. And the other thing I'd be doing is just making sure your personal tax affairs are in order, so that and the business ones, just keep everything right up to date, so that come July that you can lodge, if you're typically in a refund scenario, that you can lodge straight away and be able to get your refund as soon as possible. Okay, I think that's
awesome information. Awesome information.
In terms of, just quickly from a business perspective, I'll just run through. CPA Australia came out with a few things to consider. Update your financial statements. Just make sure take this opportunity to have business, bookkeeping, records, everything up to date, so you know exactly where your business is at. And they're talking about here mitigate risk. So list possible impacts on your business and estimate the financial impact, and then try and develop some mitigation strategies around that in terms of sales, in terms of your staff availability, supply chain, and finance, particularly if your cash reserves are low. They talk about performing a financial health check on your business, which in my view should be done every 3 or 4 years, to see where the business is at, what are the assets of the business, what is the intellectual property, because ultimately that's what's going to be of value to the business. So it's a good opportunity to review all that and say, okay, well, if I wasn't around, what value does my business have? What am I able to sell? And this is what I was saying before, that the more assets you have in your business, the more value it has. Something as simple of like having a process, an onboarding process for a new staff member. Okay, if you're having to do that, the same thing every time you bring on a new staff member, and it's not streamlined in terms of the onboarding process and having systems and procedures, having that in place is an asset of the business and makes it valuable. Okay, that's something very small, but all these things, eventually just is what it provides or adds to the value of the business. If you're doing budgets, then redoing your budgets with the new assumptions, just say, okay, well, what's the effect of my business with the new assumptions? I'll make the following assumptions: that I'll have no income, for example, come in for the month of April and May, and then some income the following sort of 2 or 3 months, and start to have some growth leading into, towards the end of the year. And looking what do those figures look like, what changes, maybe need to be made. And obviously the earlier you start in improving your cash flow, that's the most important, because you can address something now rather than have it hit you when it's too late. So, I think the message is, as we've all been saying, this is a time of, re-looking, resetting, re-establishing ourselves in many ways, and saying, okay, I'm going to take this and be positive about it, and say I'm going to look at every aspect of the business, and I'm going to make sure this business is here for the next 3 to 5 years, and take advantage of everything that's going on, because this will pass. As Tori said, we'll be sitting here and we're saying, remember when we were stuck at home? I was only thinking today, saying that I'm just, we went with the kids and we took the dogs for a walk down the river, and I thought, there's probably not going to be too many more times. I've got a 20-year-old and an 18-year-old. There's probably not going to be too many more times that our family like that is going to be able to get together and walk with dogs, because the kids are always off with their friends and doing whatnot. So let's take advantage of these times from a family perspective, but also from a business perspective.
Good words.
There's so much to learn. There's so much to learn, and just change course. We have to, and that's for those of us that have been in business, which is all of us, we know this is business. Okay, this is just one of those other things that we deal with as entrepreneurs. This is how we roll. Okay, if we wanted the easy life, we just would have remained employees. But then we would have been we wouldn't have been. That's right. We would have been miserable. So let's roll with it. Let's encourage each other, and let's get through it.
Ziggy, have you ever had any involvement in business R&D tax concessions?
Yes, plenty.
Yeah, that's a good. It's amazing the number of businesses that are really entitled to that don't know anything about it.
Yeah, we have the tax office have been on a warpath, and that in the last 12 months have done a lot of auditing of the R&D concessions.
Yeah.
So for everyone, the R&D concessions are basically if you're adding to your industry by research and develop. So if you've been able to add to the knowledge in the industry, that's the short, summary, if you like, then you can claim, you're able to claim or get basically a refund from the tax office, from the government, because you've been able to add knowledge or increase research in the sector. And basically, if you've spent, and it doesn't have to be dollars spent, it can be things that might have been invoiced to you but paid at a later date, or it could be time is part of it. So let's say if you spend $50,000 worth of various things, then you're entitled to a 50% refund or a rebate. It's basically you're getting half of that back. So if you're spending $50,000, then $25,000, the government pay to you to in acknowledgement that you've actually added to R&D. Cool. Now, a lot of people have taken advantage of that. Typically, they've gone in, put in applications, and so what's happened is there's been a lot of rogues who have a lot of companies who've got a lot of refunds, and a lot of money back. And so the tax office is now auditing all of those. So just be wary. We've actually got a really small process to really analyze to see, do you actually qualify? Because there's no point doing all the work if you're not going to qualify for the R&D concession. So we've got a checklist but there's good opportunities there as well.
Yep.
Fantastic.
That's good.
Thank God you're here.
But a TV show a few years ago, wasn't it?
If anyone wants to engage your services, how do we reach out to you, Ziggy? Is there a website or?
Yeah, so the website is 3pcorp.com.au.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Or they can email me direct at ziggy@3pcorp.com.au.
Fantastic. So that's good news. I'm gonna leave you all with a story that I found today. Fascinating story about Isaac Newton. Anyone heard this story? No?
I know. Try it.
Okay.
We don't know.
So, well, we all know who Isaac Newton is. I'll get into it. So, I'm going to read it from my phone, so just keep up with me. In 1665, social distancing orders emptied campuses throughout England as the bubonic plague raged, killing 100,000 people, roughly 1/4 of London's population, in just 18 months. A 24-year-old student from Trinity College, Cambridge, was among those forced to leave campus and return indefinitely to his childhood home. His name was Isaac Newton, and his time at home during the epidemic would be called his Years of Wonder, or Year of Wonders. Sorry, not Years of Wonder, Year of Wonders. Away from the university life and unbounded by curriculum, constraints, and professors' whims, Newton dove into discovery. According to the Washington Post, without his professors to guide him, Newton apparently thrived. At home, he built bookshelves and created a small office for himself, filling a blank notebook with his ideas and calculations. Absent the distractions of typical daily life, Newton's creativity flourished. During this time away, he discovered differential and integral calculus, formulated a theory of universal gravitation, and explored optics, experimenting with prisms and investigating light. Newton biographer James Gleick writes, "The plague was his transfiguration. Solitary and almost incommunicado, he became the world's paramount mathematician." Newton himself would say about this forced time away from university life, "For in those days I was in the prime of my age for invention and minded mathematics and philosophy more than any time since." The Great Plague eventually ended and Newton returned to Trinity College to complete his studies, becoming a fellow and ultimately a professor. The discoveries he made during his time away from campus, though, would form the foundation of his historic career for years to come and become some of the greatest scientific breakthroughs.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well,
That's good.
I just found that really encouraging. We're forced to do what we've got to do, but you know what? We've been hearing it from everyone tonight. Just take advantage of what we got, make the most of our family time, and go forth and conquer.
I thought just winding off,
Sure.
Tori, I thought Pastor Shane also said a real, I reckon it was a prophetic word over the church and over the people, and that was Jesus says, "Don't cry."
I remember that. So not everyone here goes to church, but so hear us out.
My goodness.
Yep.
And I actually texted Shane and I said to him, what a prophetic word that was over our church, our people.
Can you expound on that just quickly? What that
Sorry?
means? Can you expand on that? What that means?
Well, when Jesus came across the woman, and it was in Luke 7:11-12.
Yep.
And he said, just don't cry. Just lifting her up. And
I think during these times,
sorry?
I was just saying, I think during these times, and everyone in the world has a different faith. I think it's very important to have a faith in something. And during this, we're typically, it's topical for us to be talking about Jesus. I guess it's Easter. But everyone has got a different faith, and I think it's these times to go back to wherever you've put your trust and your faith in. I think that's also a good reset, isn't it? To be able to say, okay, well, I've actually everything that I've probably put my faith in, and I'm a Christian as well, but we spend so much time on businesses and material things, and that's all very important, and money's very important. But it's a good reset for us to be able to say, okay, well, what else have maybe I've put my trust and faith in, which isn't exactly on solid ground, and where it's something that I should be looking at again and revisiting.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
that's good. I mean, that's one thing you need to have in business is faith, because it's full of risk. Everything you do in business is risk. So it is faith, really. At the end of the day, it's saying, this is where I want to be. I don't know exactly how I'm going to get there, but I'm going to step out and do it anyway. So set some good goals for yourself, guys. And it's been great having you all today. It's a real pleasure to hear from everybody. So what I might do is I'll probably edit this video and post it onto Facebook. Apparently you couldn't hear my voice for the first half of it on the live stream, but I fixed it halfway through. But it's all good. That's the things we do. These are the challenges we have.
Good job, Tori.
Well done, Tori.
So appreciate it. Good to see you all again. And
Thanks, Tori. And Ziggy as well.
Thank you very much, Ziggy. Oh, sorry, you got a question?
Can I just say one thing?
Yeah.
Because we're all going to meet up all the time. So for the ones of us that do have Facebook businesses and stuff, are you able to put them onto a Facebook post or an email or something, so that we can all start to like each other's businesses? Because it may give us a bit more of an insight into what other people do, rather than just seeing the face. We can actually see the business as well.
So there's the Facebook group. So I've got the COVID-19 Business Success Forum. I'll put everyone's business in there. So their name, their business, their website, and their social media. So I'll make sure I get everyone's, and I'll post it in there, and then might even post it public or whatever. So
then we can all sort of share and like and
the more the merrier. Yeah, the more the merrier.
Good, well done. And cousin Justine, it was great to meet you.
yes, you too, Ziggy.
You're now my cousin, you know that. Well, I've got a Greek background, right? So everyone in here, we're related somehow.
Yes.
We're all Greek.
I'm a Greek lookalike.
Absolutely. Everyone is Greek.
Okay.
The Greekers of the lot.
God bless. I'm going to end the live video here. So those watching at home, catch you later. Thanks for watching.
Okay. See you guys.
See ya.